What's up everyone, my name is Gus, and for today's video, we'll be going over the best abilities to run for each weapon from the Slosher weapon class. Sloshers are my favorite weapon class, and I primarily only use Sloshers. Sloshers are known for having a diverse set of weapons where you hurl ink to your opponents. They're great for playing off walls and are really great at splatting enemies around obstacles. You may have been wondering since playing a weapon from this class, or you're thinking of trying one for the first time, what are the best abilities for each weapon? The answer for that is still not fully established. Splatoon 3 is still new, so the meta is still evolving as we speak, and the abilities recommended you would use may be different months or years from me posting this video. I do have a couple of answers. What I did was, I researched abilities that top and high level competitive players use for their respective Slosher weapons and tested out abilities myself. Before talking about each individual Slosher, let me first talk about utility subs and the meta. Utility subs are subs that you usually only need small amounts, like 1 or 2 subs, and that can improve your gameplay. This isn't just for Slosher builds, I think you should run these on all your builds, so generally you want to have these subs on your gear. Ink resistance helps in decreasing the negative impacts of touching enemy ink. Most Sloshers are usually in the front line, so they help you when you're engaged in battles and need to move around to splat your opponents. Even if you're playing a more backline Slosher like Explo, ink resistance still helps because it improves mobility when touching enemy ink. So it's good when trying to escape when the enemies are throwing a bunch of paint at you, for example. Quick super jump basically increases the speed of your super jump. It decreases how many frames you're vulnerable before super jumping as well. It's really helpful when you need to jump out of a bad situation where you're about to get splatted, or it's really helpful when you want to get back into the fight quicker. Sub resistance up was changed between Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. Originally known as bomb defense up, which protected you not only against subs but also specials, has been changed to sub resistance up in Splatoon 3. It now only reduces effects and damages from sub weapons. Even though it lost the ability to help protect against specials, I still think it's good given that bombs are usually the preferred subs among players, and this ability can help you survive on occasions. There are 2 other utility subs I think are good but not needed for all weapons, and it's really up to you if you want to include them in your build, and that's Special Saver, which helps you save more of your special gauge when splatted, and Ink Recovery Up, which helps you recover your ink faster. As I mentioned before, the meta is still evolving. Currently, it's pretty clear that Ninja Squid is one of the most prominent abilities in the game. With this ability, you're less visible while swimming, but it does reduce your swim speed. Given map layouts, Ninja Squid helps you move around in maps with more open space and less cover, and it could help you from potentially being targeted and splatted. With all that being covered, let's get right into the video. The first Slosher I will talk about is the default Slosher. This Slosher is a high damage weapon with decent range and decent painting. Currently, the Slosher has 2 kits, the Vanilla Slosher and the Slosher Deco. The Vanilla Slosher has Splat Bomb and Triple Ink Strike. Its vanilla kit is pretty good. Splat Bomb helps the bucket take space and it synergizes well with the main weapon. And Triple Ink Strike also helps in displacement and moving individuals across the map. The Deco has a cool combo where if you throw one slosh that hits 70 damage, it can combo with the 30 damage marker for a splat. The Zipcaster also helps the Slosher become even more distracting for the enemy, and it gives the Slosher the ability to target backlines. Given the designs of both kits, it fulfills the Slayer role in your team composition. So because it's a Slayer, we would want to give it abilities that help improve your ability to splat opponents and take space in the front lines. I did not see too much of a difference between main abilities from top level players. Usually they use similar abilities for both Vanilla and the Deco variant. These abilities include swim speed, quick respawn, and stealth jump to help Slosher engage and disengage from battles and allows them to take riskier plays, and suffer a shorter respawn time if you're unable to get a splat. Other abilities to consider are Comeback, which gives you 10 ability points of 6 different abilities for the first 20 seconds after respawning after you were splatted by an enemy. Because Sloshers are usually taking positions in the front, there will be times where you are splatted, so this ability helps you improve your mobility and ink usage to help you get back into the fight quicker. Some people opt to use Last Ditch Effort, LDE, instead. LDE is an ability where depending on the score of the enemy team or the time remaining in the match, it will grant the user 1 to 24 ability points of Ink Saver Main, Ink Saver Sub, and Ink Recovery Up. Slosher does not have the best ink consumption. It's pretty ink hungry, especially with the splat bomb that takes up a large amount of ink. So for example, after throwing a bomb, you only have 4 sloshes left in your ink tank. But with the full effects of LDE, if you were to throw a bomb, you'd have 5 additional sloshes for a total of 9 sloshes remaining in your ink tank. Additional sloshes could be critical in you winning your fights or capping the zone, so it's a good ability to consider. There was nothing really special in terms of subs from the top Slosher builds. They basically either invested more in quick respawn or utility subs. Here are a couple of builds from top level Slosher players. Moving on to our next Slosher, we have the Sloshing Machine, which is one of the best weapons in the game currently. Machine has a really big hitbox and has a high damage direct slosh, with decent paint and a slow firing rate. This weapon has Fizzy Bomb and Booyah Bomb. Fizzy Bomb helps the machine poke and helps in improving the machine's paint output, while Booyah Bomb helps in displacing enemies and is really good at threatening objectives. This weapon also fulfills your Slayer role, where you can enhance the weapon's movement. Abilities such as swim speed, run speed, and stealth jump help the machine significantly in fulfilling its role. Unlike the Slosher, the machine has pretty good strafe speed. With run speed, it enhances your movement during battles when firing the weapon. It's also advised to run at least 2 subs of Inksaver main, because with only 2 subs, it gives you an additional slosh. One additional slosh may not seem like a lot, but trust me, one additional slosh can go a long way in either capping the zone or finishing off your opponents. You can also opt to use quick respawn and comeback for this weapon to take a more aggressive and riskier playstyle. Most top level players prefer to use LDE over comeback though. LDE is really just a good ability to use, especially on machine because it is ink hungry compared to other Slayer weapons, and almost max LDE plus the 2 Inksaver main subs gives you the ability to throw up to 2 Fizzy Bombs without running out of ink, which can help you poke enemies and charge up your Booyah Bomb faster. Here are a couple builds from top level machine players. Moving on to my favorite Slosher and the weapon that got me interested in Splatoon, the Tri-Slosher. The Tri-Slosher is a high damage weapon with good mobility but with short range. This weapon has a Toxic Mist and Inkjet. Toxic Mist helps in negating space and trapping opponents for an easier splat, and Inkjet just increases the aggressiveness and gives it the ability to challenge long-range weapons. Tri-Slosher is also a Slayer. Abilities such as quick respawn, stealth jump, and comeback all help this weapon take aggressive plays and come back to the front lines quicker. Unlike the previous 2 though, Tri-Slosher is a lightweight weapon, meaning it can swim faster than middleweight weapons like Machine and heavy weapons like Explosher. So investing in swim speed will only make you faster and give you the ability to close the gap between you and other weapons. Some players opt to use a couple of subs for special charge and special power up to improve the output and the efficiency of the Inkjet. The weapon already has a 190p special, and 2 subs of special charge drops it down to 180p, giving you the opportunity to get your Inkjets faster and make those aggressive plays. You can also opt to use Drop Roller instead of Stealth Jump, as Drop Roller gives you the ability to roll from your Inkjet starting spot and potentially avoid getting splatted if someone is camping your spot. Here are some builds from top level Tri-Slosher players. Next, we have the Bloblobber. Blob is a long-range weapon that paints well, but is rather ink-hungry. This weapon has Sprinkler and Inkstorm. Sprinkler helps increase the paint output of the weapon and with its movement, whereas Storm can help in taking space and displacing opponents. This weapon plays more like a backline to me and is more passive compared to the other frontline Sloshers. The weapon's main objective is to support its teammate with its paint output. It can also get some cheeky splats with how bubbles interact with the surfaces. Blob currently is not really being pushed by most top level players given how fast the meta is and how this weapon struggles in close range situations, but it's still definitely a fun weapon that can excel in modes such as Turf War and Splat Zones. Given its role, the best abilities for this weapon is to mitigate the ink inefficiency of this weapon. So running abilities such as Inksaver main and LDE will only help you in improving your paint output and fulfilling your goal in maintaining turf to allow your teammates to freely move around the map. This weapon is also one of the very few weapons where thermal ink is really good for it. Thermal ink reveals the location of the player that the user deals damage with the main weapon, so in this case the Bloblobber. Because with how the blobs travel and if you're aiming in a general direction, a blob or two can hit an opponent and you'll be able to see them even behind walls. Blob is a really good weapon in negating entry into spaces, and this ability will only help you in keeping people in check. Some blob players also run a couple of subs of special charge up to get Ink Storm faster. It's really just good because, like I said, Blob is really good at negating space, and Ink Storm is also good at negating space and displacing individuals. Here are some builds from high-level Blob players. And finally, we have the Explosher. The Explosher is a heavyweight weapon that shoots an accurate but slow long-range projectile. The weapon fires lobs of paint in an arc-like manner. This weapon has Point Sensor and Ink Storm. While Point Sensor does not do any damage, with the numerous people using Ninja Squid, Point Sensor is a good way to help detect enemies to help your teammates know where the enemies are on the map. And I also think it complements the main weapon well, because it helps you find enemies behind walls, and Explo is really good at hitting people behind walls. Explo also doesn't really need a bomb, because the main weapon itself acts like a bomb with great damage and chip damage. Storm is a good way to negate space and displace enemies, and it combos well with the main weapon because the rain does good chip damage and Explo does really good damage with one shot. Because of how this weapon plays, it's more of a backline. It has a really good ability to trap people in their paint and paints very well. However, it's very ink hungry and really slow. Some abilities that are useful to minimize these negative traits are Ink Saver Main and Swim Speed. Ink Saver Main will give you the ability to decrease how ink hungry the weapon is, and Swim Speed helps the Explosher decrease the slowness of the weapon. And that's very helpful when being rushed down or needing to get a certain locations while using this weapon. Some top level players like using 1 to 2 subs of ink recovery up, as it helps recover their ink faster for the main weapon, or 1 to 2 subs of special charge to decrease the points necessary to get rain, giving it the ability to continue to displace or maintain objectives with the Ink Storm. Here are a couple of builds from top level Explosher players. Alright everybody, that was the video. I do want to thank Sendow.ink because that is where I did a lot of my research to explain to you all what abilities should be used. I basically looked at the builds from top level players and used the builds analyzer to find specifics on how weapons interact with certain abilities. I put the link in the description below if any of you all want to check it out and see top builds for yourself. I also include links to high level Slosher players, Sendow pages, and some YouTube channels. Top players like Kyo, Brian, and Pika all have great videos on using buckets, providing guidance on how to use the weapon, so be sure to check those out. Some of those videos may be from Splatoon 2, but the fundamentals and positioning of using the weapon is still relevant for Splatoon 3. As a reminder, remember that all of this could change as Nintendo's continuously updating the game. Things can change for the abilities and for the main weapons. Some things are going to stay the same, some things are going to get nerfed or buffed. I will likely recreate this video when all the kits are out, but I wanted to share my initial thoughts and research on what abilities to use for the Slosher weapon class. That being said, I hope you found this video helpful. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I also want to hear from you, so post down in the comments your builds for your bucket weapon. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so thanks for watching everybody.